At the age of 51, Dustin Hoffman is regarded as one of America's finest actors. He's been acclaimed on stage, in film, and on television. Rain Man is his 20th feature film, and another Academy Award nomination as Best Actor seems a certainty. Didn't a year of your life go into the study of autism, and there is, in fact, is there one specific person upon whom your character might be based?
That I kicked off from, yes. He wants to keep his privacy, but there is a deep throat. There is a man who, I met a few autistic people who had savant abilities, and again, it should be stressed that it's a terrible disease, and only 1 or 2% of them are high functioning. Those were the types that I met because I was to be playing a high functioning autistic person, which I try to do in the film. But most autistics are just in terrible straits and hospitalized and have to have helmets on their head because they're constantly, in a self-injurious frame of mind. And but I did research it for, I don't know if it was a year, almost a year, I guess. And I talked to doctors, and I saw film, and I met parents, and I hung out with a few guys. I met one woman who was autistic who actually wrote a book. Pardon me, Temple Grandin wrote a book called Portrait of an Autistic Person, and she helped me a great deal because she was the first autistic person to ever be able to express what it feels like, and said the most remarkable thing to me. And she said, you'll hear all these doctors tell you that autistic people don't want to be touched, and that you can tell when someone is autistic as early as 6 months of age, because an infant will actually, most kids want to be, you go to hug an autistic kid. I don't mean that every parent should be fearful if their baby does that, but it is one of the signs. And she said the truth of the matter is, she says, we grow up wanting to be touched and hugged as much, if not more, than anyone. It's that when it happens, we can't take it. And she said, it's like if you know what a screech on the blackboard is. She says it's just an unbearable feeling for whatever mysterious reasons.
Knowing that I was going to be seeing you and knowing we'd talk about Rain Man, something happened the other evening in Canada. Kate Reid was honored with a Life Achievement Award for her work on stage and film. Kate came out looking her very best and thanked the country, the nation, and the people for giving her this award while she was alive, and got one of the biggest laughs and a standing ovation of the evening. And I thought of you, of course, because of that experience of Death of a Salesman. And it came back to Rain Man, because I remembered the story of your brother Ron giving you a collection of plays. Was it Gassner's
Yes.
theater collection?
Yes.
And the first play in the collection was Death of a Salesman.
Yes.
You've always talked about this time we live in and the family unit. And here we have the story again. And I just thought of your brother Ron giving you those plays.
I think after I read that play, it was the first time I'd ever been put into a real kind of traumatic funk, because I felt strange because I felt that the author knew my family, because it was the story of my own family. My brother and I, there was only 2 of us. My father was a salesman. I was the happy in the family. My brother was the football star, but totally alienated from our father. And then the other thing I felt was that I wanted, for some reason, I wish I could say the words. I used to say them out loud. And I guess I never got over it. I later played Bernard on the recording in New York with Lee J. Cobb. And then I met Arthur Miller right after I did Tootsie, and he said, why don't you do Willie? And I said, I can't play that part. He said, sure you can. So I said, well, help me. And I still don't think I can cut it anywhere near that Cobb did. It's his part. Some parts are an actor's part. That part's Cobb's part. But it was a great experience for me. Kate Reid was one. If I would have not been working on, and I would have known about it, I would have loved to have gone up to Canada and help, share it with, that honor with her. It was just wonderful working with her. We had a wonderful, we use the word family. There was a family thing between us.
People who aren't in the world of theater are always surprised at the kind of physical reaction actors have to each other when they work together, the hugging, the kissing. And it's always when you see actors who've gone through the experience of a play or a movie and not seeing each other for a few years, meeting on the street, in a restaurant, at a party, and becoming so emotional in their reactions. And it's all tactile, it's all touching to make sure you're still there and they're still there. I think the actor and that kind of affection, has that been an important part? When you see people you've worked with, if Kate Reid walked in the room now, would it be a big hug and a kiss?
Well, you'd probably spit in each other's face. No, I'm sure it would. It's, you know, acting is, I mean, it's like anything. It's such a, where the work is intense. It's you work in such an intense way. It's not just the actors, it's the crew and the actors, the director, the cameraman, the sound man. I mean, you're working in a one room for 12 hours a day. No matter what locations you're always winding up in a small space, and everything is so intense. It's like being in surgery. And this goes on day after day after day, and there's nothing else. It's just 14 hours of work. You get up in the morning, you go to work. I mean, the crew works much longer than the actors. You know, they have to rig, unrig, and then this goes on for 3-4 months, and then bingo, 10 years go by. It's the strangest thing in the world. Then you bump into each other 10 years later, and it's just very odd, because you've been as intimate as you could be with anyone, with family. When you were talking about touching, though, it occurred to me, one of the things I feel about having entered this world of autism, or tried to understand a little bit about it, which is, and even the experts say that it's very hard to know what it's about. I nevertheless kept feeling, if I was going to be able to do anything with this part, somehow it had to relate to something I do understand. So I began to feel that I was autistic, and then I started to feel that we're all autistic. It's just a degree. Just like saying we're all killers. I mean, we all are, and but we keep the lid on. We all have impulses at one time or another to kill, or we have impulses one time or another to be self-abusive, to hurt ourselves, to put our fist through the wall or bang our head, and we keep a lid on it. So these people are unable to keep a lid on that. And for some reason, there are those times in life with the person that we love to be with the most, our mate, someone that we share our bed with. There are times where you say, no, I just don't feel like being touched. If you try to analyze, what is that? What is that feeling? I don't know, I just kind of what is that feeling? We can't really define it, but people who are autistic have it all the time. And when you say about being tactile and the need to be tactile, the need to hug, the need to kiss, the need to always do this, I was hearing you say that. What a strange disease to have that not only cut off, but in a sense, whatever the sensory neurons are, to be reversed. That's actually reversed. You know, I was once in electrocuted, I grabbed the 220 thing and I couldn't let go of it. You can't let go of 220. And finally the plug came out, or I would have died. I was on it for like over 30, 40 seconds. And a doctor once explained to me, I said, why couldn't I let go of it? Do you contract? He said, no, the brain reverses the information when you get an electric jolt like that. He says, the brain is telling you to let go. And you're trying to let go, but because it's reversed, your muscles get the reverse information. So the more you're telling yourself to let go, the more you grab. And I started to think that maybe that autism was like that. That maybe it's like you say, there's a need. They want to touch, and the more they want to touch, and they want to hug, and it's like if Kate Reid were to walk in, I would do that. But if you're autistic, you would do that, but the reverse would then take place. It gets reversed somehow.
Was that the burn, Dustin, when you got the infection? It entered your bloodstream?
No.
And you were hospitalized? That was there have been moments in your, we are very lucky to have you here.
Well, all of us have our few cat lives,
Yes, but there are those of us with whom they don't become public. I've never lived in an apartment that blew up, that had weathermen next door.
Yes.
And fortunately, I'd left my desk and my work to go out.
20 minutes before. Yeah.
And taken the ones I loved with me. I think at the time you were burned. Wasn't it a fondue pot exploding?
Yeah, great, flaming oil.
Blood, you got an infection.
Yeah.
You didn't do The Subject Was Roses.
Right.
It was another turning point in your life.
Yes.
You understood something else about the business, but you also just used the analogy again of surgery. And it fascinates me about you because one of the things that you did with some degree of passion before fame became an impediment, you took photographs of surgical operations.
Yes.
What was the fascination with that time of taking those pictures of colon operations and all those things you did do?
Well, I wasn't hung up on colons. It just, the doctor that saved
There were other things. I'm sorry. I don't want to make it sound like it was one topic.
I love those colon operations. The surgeon that saved my life when I was burned later said to me, I was an unemployed actor, and I was an amateur photographer, which I've been for many, many years. And he said to me, would you like to photograph an operation? I said, I'd love to. And he had a colon resection that happened to be his operation. I photographed it, and it was one of the great experiences of my life. And then he had to do a larynx operation, and I photographed that. And then I found I just loved being in an operating room. I've also loved being at the birth of all my kids, five of the six of my children. One was a cesarean. I just loved that. I love don't they call it a theater, an operating theater?
They certainly do.
Yeah, it's a great place. It's a lot of people would find it gruesome. I don't. I'm sure there's surgical nurses and all the people that work there that don't find it gruesome. So I belong. I share their feelings. There's such a, I don't know, this has so many different levels to it. Human beings are cutting up another human being to save his life.
Then the hospital room, of course, is a place where life and death begin or end. You have always been, by your own admission, a man obsessed with the idea of death until you had a conversation, among many, with your friend Arthur Miller. And Arthur Miller was talking about immortality, the futility of immortality. That immortality, I think Miller said to you, was like carving one's initials on a block of ice on a hot day in July.
Exact quote, on a hot day in July.
Well, I think, Dustin, if one is going to quote Arthur Miller, we should at least try to get it right. Don't you agree?
It's right on the button.
And then you have to come back and say, as a movie star, one realizes one is already dead, one's been embalmed as a movie star. And I'm glad that you've lightened up about that. You have, haven't you?
Yeah, I have. I think it's going to be odd for a lot of us who can afford video cameras and VCRs, where not all the population can, God knows, but for those of us that can, it's going to be very odd for this generation of children who have. I'm not that avid a video recorder picture taker, but I do it. But for those children who are going to suddenly be 20 years of age or 30 years of age or whatever, and suddenly their parents are going to give them a couple of cassettes, and they're going to see themselves from birth, 2 years of age, 5, 7, and to see your life, recorded life, which is quite possible now, the way we used to do with little photographs. I think it's going to be a similar feeling for them that a movie star has, or at least someone who, let's say I became a movie star when I was 29 years old, I'm now 51. So in a sense, when you turn on a television and you pop a program, by mistake, and there you are in The Graduate or something like that, you are looking at your own mortality in a sense. I mean, you can't help but get away from the fact that, wow, that's gone, that's over. And I'm going to blink next time and, I'm going to be doing Golden Pond.
Two.
And that's, but I think it's going to be similar for a lot of us now that we can record our life in a sense. So I think the whole community is going to become more closely aligned.